So what do you make of the position that Australia finds itself in now?
I think it's the correct decision that the Prime Minister has taken. Imposing our own tariffs would amount to self-harm, and that's the basic position the government has taken. And retaliating against the United States would invite further retaliations, and trying to cut some sort of special deal would be a deal with an administration that essentially can't be trusted. So there's really no good options here. And what the government is doing is to double down on its diversification strategies, which have been in place for some time, while at the same time putting in place policies to build economic and trade resilience. So I think a pretty comprehensive response and quite a defensible one.
Because Australia quite often has to navigate between its ally, the US, and the regional power of China. So how are they going to strike the balance best for the country of Australia?
Yeah, that's always a balancing act. And one should recall that a couple of years ago, China also coerced Australia. And at that time, about 40% of our exports went to China. To put that into perspective, about 5% of our exports go to the United States. So we're far less exposed to the US market, and we can therefore, outside of a few sector and product stories, particularly beef exports to the US, we can take the hit, relatively speaking. In the case of China, when they coerced us, we opted again to just double down and take the hit and diversify. And that's what most commodity exporters particularly were able to do. But the bottom line, I think, on the foreign policy front is that this Trump initiative draws the region, generally speaking, closer to China. This is a golden opportunity for China to cement its regional relationships and displace the United States in the region.
And what of the relationship between Australia and the United States? The two countries have been allies for years. How concerned are you about the relationship as we move forward?
Very concerned, I would say. So, yes, we are a key US security ally in the region. We're not the only one, of course. Japan, South Korea, the Philippines, all are equally concerned. And reading the Washington tea leaves with growing alarm, and particularly the growing influence of the MAGA right in US foreign policy making, within which the isolationist trend, I think, is increasingly evident. And what would that mean for Australia's security settings going forward? Well, there's a very famous Australian book that I'm rereading at the moment called Fear of Abandonment. And I think that it is moving very much to the fore. We are very exposed and very concerned about it.